Happy Sunday, and it's not just for the Irish this one. It is St. Patrick's, but more importantly, it is the first day of the major, which has been, well, a long time coming. For those of you who have been like me, following every step of the open qualifiers, the actual RMRs, all the nonsense in between, it's been a long ride, but finally, the Copenhagen major has started. And yeah, it's going to be a great weekend. Well, end to the weekend, and then week following, it's going to be really difficult to focus on ancillary things like work and life. And Counter Strike's on. It's the real Counter Strike. Joining me as he does every Sunday is Quacke, and we will be discussing everything to do with this major that's happened so far, which is one thing, and that's our first topic. But before we dive into that, I just want to make sure to promote the memberships. Become a member, you get access to the monthly Q&A on the channel, and you also get access to other content early. So most content that I put out that's not this is usually recorded enough in advance that I can put it out to members first before the regular people actually get to view it. Also, be sure to subscribe if you want to see these videos every Sunday. Now, Quack, I'm going to do your promo for you as well. On his live stream, you go twitch.tv. It's Quacke CS, or is it Quack69?
Yes, Quack CS, Quack CS.
Quacke CS.
Twitter is Quack69.
That's the one. Where you'll see Quack basically streaming a bunch of games that no one else is streaming. So if you're into lower level Counter Strike, but with a charming, relatable host commentating over it, be sure to check it out. There's a lot of Swedish stuff, so if you speak Swedish, that might help. But then there's also other games where everyone can understand what the hell's going on, which is very nice.
Yeah, there's other stuff as well. Last week we streamed, we had a 1.6 session, which was really fun. We played 1.6 for like 5 hours, which was amazing. I've never played 1.6 before that, and it was really fun. So there's going to be more stuff like that. There's going to be pugs. There's going to be everything. I'm going to be a streamer now. That's what I'm trying to do.
You're going to be a streamer. Okay. I can't wait. But yeah, no, that's something to look out for as well. But make sure you become a member. That's the most important one, because I like money. So let's talk about the first big topic that has to do with the major, the only really big topic, and that is 9Pandas visa issues, which is annoying, disappointing, but ultimately I'm kind of happy it's only happened to one team. I'm going to be honest. I thought there'd be more issues with this. Thankfully, most teams that are from Russia have been in Europe for long enough that it's not been a problem. But no, this happened. They've not been able to make it to the major. PGL have replaced them with Gamer Legion. It's a net positive, probably, in terms of the quality of CS that will be played, but really disappointing for these players who actually deserve to be there. Like, they earned it. It's just a bit... It was a rough thing that geopolitics has to get involved sometimes, but we've seen it before, and we'll probably see it again. I mean, only the dead have seen the end of war, and there's no doubt that there'll be more bullshit going on in the future, so that's a big disappointment. Quack, you probably have more knowledge of the exact details of what happened. Like, how long did they have to get here? Like, what was going on with all that?
Well, so they went through, 9Pandas went through the last chance qualifier, which probably gave them the least amount of time out of anyone to actually get set up. It would have been maybe 3 weeks, I think, or so, which was obviously an issue. The details of it all seems to be that it was the fault of the consulate, because they did, the consulate apparently messaged them that their visas were ready on the day they had to be submitted, which was March 14th. So they were, in theory, ready in time. But for whatever reason, despite like the entire team being at the consulate for the whole day, they couldn't give them to them for some reason. And then the weekend started, and no one was there to help them. So it seems like this is just another one, like tight deadline and managerial failure. I'll be honest, I don't think we really know. That's going off of what Idis Balance said. I don't know if it was like anything the players could have done, or 9Pandas management could have done, or if it was just the government being stupid. But yeah, 9Pandas aren't going to be in the major, and I think that's kind of a shame. For once, I think you're going to be the Gamer Legion proponent in this discussion, because I don't think they're going to do shit, because I think, well, the biggest downside Gamer Legion definitely have is that they are going to have less than 24 hours in Copenhagen before their first official, which is bad, especially considering the success they've had with snacks was largely based off of prepping well for the first match, and now they have nothing. But then also there are rumors that, I mean, pretty much this lineup was probably like half of it was probably benched or transferred in reality, or was supposed to, about to be, before they got the call up. People were saying that Isak was already practicing with Bleed, and stuff like that. and I'm sure like other players were also removed, and they just had to reassemble the team for like one last major. So I don't have a lot of hope for Game Religion. I had 9Pandas going through the opening stage, and when they in my pick'ems, and when they got replaced with Game Religion, I removed Game Religion from the advancing category, and now I have Imperial instead. So I don't think Game Religion are going through. Is the gist of it.
Okay, well, I'm trying to. Okay, I thought the level of Counter-Strike would go up. I didn't think Game Legion would be good or go through. Let's be real about this. I just don't think 9Pandas play a particularly aesthetic game. Let's put it that way. Game Legion can prep a map pick. Yeah, they'll probably go 2-3. Let's be real about this. I don't think they're going to be a great team. I've never thought that. But I think they can go 2-3. Like, they'll get 2 wins. I didn't think 9Pandas really had much of a chance. Like, they're a team I want to succeed in terms of the players, but they're not a great roster, so it's a shame. I would have rather seen them be mid than Game Legion because they actually made it. But that is what it is. It's not the again, I said it's not the biggest shock because I expected some of this BS to happen at some point. I just wasn't expecting it to be just now get 9Pandas are the team that happens to. Like, yeah, specifically them. But maybe they could have done all this in advance, like way more in advance, like anticipation of qualifying, like maybe be a little more cocky. I don't know. Like schedule a boot camp there in case you didn't make it. I don't know, maybe something like that could have been done, but I guess until you have the money from the stickers, the money guaranteed from the stickers coming, you don't want to start throwing money away like that. So it probably does limit their options. So a bit of a shame.
Wait, we did talk about this. I'm gonna steal this quote from Carbon Dogma, but there was like parallels being drawn to Boston 2018 when we had the same thing happening. Ty Lue couldn't show up because of visa issues, and Flash had to be called up to replace them. And I'm gonna steal this from Carbon Dogma. It's almost like we started scheduling the minors in the same country as the major so that we specifically wouldn't have this happen again.
Yeah.
That was an issue because Romania is a European Union country, but wasn't a Schengen member until like a month ago. So when they went there, they didn't get the European Union benefit of also being able to travel to Denmark. I think that was the gist of it.
And that would make sense.
That's inconvenient. So for Yanks, the Schengen agreement is what the European Union does to make sure that all of the citizens of each country can travel in between each other without border checks, which still happen. But you don't. If you had a visa for Sweden, for example, you wouldn't need a new visa to go to Denmark if you are American or so. But yeah, so I mean, if we just had the European RMR played in Denmark, probably this wouldn't have happened.
Or Serbia or France or a large amount. Maybe not Serbia. Actually, that might be a bad example, but a large amount.
Not Serbia.
I always forget
not Serbia. Yeah,
I always forget who's exactly on the list of non-Schengen, but. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're not anymore, so
I carry a French passport. I've got immunity.
Okay. Yeah.
I still get to use the e-gates. I don't have to bother with any of the border crap when I go home. Like it's all good. It's great. And I just have to wait after the border checks for my friends who all sat there with their silly passports, like waiting. Frustrating, but hey, it's a nice little perk. But that's pretty much it. The other big thing that happened this week was the Sky Esports Grand Slam, they called it. And honestly, surprisingly positive. Out of everything, I thought these would be like, it's nice that you're trying, but this is going to go terribly. No, the events were well run. I was really impressed with that. The level of play obviously wasn't very high. The invite teams were Bad News Kangaroos. Actually, don't quote me on invited. I'll just list the teams who were there. Bad News Kangaroos, Aurora, God's Reign, who are the Indian team, and then a team whose name wasn't like even listed until the event basically started, and they were basically from Indonesia, I want to say. I'm doing this straight off the top of the dome.
Indonesia.
I'm pretty sure it was Indonesia.
It was Indonesia.
Okay, good. I can't remember what they were called though. But yeah, essentially there was a 4-team event. Double limb bracket, if I'm not going crazy. And in the end, we got a surprising upset. Because coming into this, God's Reign were ranked 184th. And they had a grand total of 0 players anyone who doesn't follow Asia close enough would have ever heard of. You'd have never heard of any of these players unless you've watched Indian CS or South Asian type qualifiers, things that are regional that include them. And they actually, in the consolidation final, beat Bad News Kangaroos, who were ranked 97th in the world. Not great. They're not the best Australian team, but that's a huge upset and a huge result for Indian CS. So I thought we'd bring it up because, wow, what a crazy upset. The event also was really well run, and I thought actually they did a pretty good job with the broadcast, the little I was able to catch. So honestly, great, because we've got more Sky Esports events coming with bigger teams, and this is a great test run and a massive bonus that the God's Reign team actually pulled off an upset.
Yeah, Sky Esports don't have the best track record as a TO because I think they have at least once in like the past 12 months scheduled a big LAN and then cancelled it without any, like, just a few weeks out without, because like shit just happens and they had a hard time getting off the ground, I think. But Sky Esports are the TO that made the big, started the big Indian league that basically created all of these Indian teams like God's Reign, which was, well, the idea was that you would have a bunch of qualifiers at like various internet cafes, and then they would basically, the teams that were part of this franchise league would then pick from those players and make teams for this big league. And that was pretty fucking cool, but as an idea. So that's probably why God's Reign are here in the first place. But yeah, God's Reign weren't actually invited. They played a close qualifier. Bad News Kangaroos weren't invited. They played an Oceanic qualifier. And they are a half-decent team. There's an argument. Like, you could say they're the second best Oceanic team at the moment. Which doesn't say much, but like in this context. But if in this crowd, they were the second best team at the event. And then the Indonesian team were invited. I don't know who the fuck GRDX are, but they were straight invited, as were Aurora. But strange event, worked out, cool. I don't know if there was a crowd. I didn't watch anything.
No, there was a live crowd. It was like a big, like, sort of expo, I want to say, and there was a lot of like important regional people invited as well, like in the tech sector, I think, for India. No, it was a pretty cool event from what I could tell, and yeah, well run. Honestly, great job, and I'm glad to see that upset come through because I watched their game against Aurora, at least the first map of the upper final, not the grand final, and it was on Ancient. They lost 13-6, but I came out of it thinking, sure, they're not great. They're really not great. But a couple of these players look sharp. And on LAN against a really, really sharp group of players in Aurora, that's impressive. Considering these guys have come out like from nothing, there's not a huge amount of investment historically in esports in India, especially not on PC gaming. So, really interested to see that. Sure, they got smashed 13-0 in the next map. But then, yeah, grand final, they put up a fight on both maps. A couple of players look solid in that as well. I really think there's something to work with here. Sure, they're going to need a lot of guys to come through this sort of LAN cafe scene, but as we've seen with Mongolia, a bit of effort and dedication and some LAN cafes can get you quite far. And they've got a far bigger player base to pick from than the Mongols do. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see some more development soon.
It is a huge market, isn't it? Like India as a whole, because there's just so many people. And a lot of them are probably already interested in gaming. Like, as you said, PC gaming maybe isn't the biggest thing, but mobile gaming is. Like, a lot of people have a lot of interest in this. So it's cool. It's cool that a TO like Sky Esports are like, they keep this investment up. It wasn't just like the big league with the big prize pool, and then it was like, yeah, we keep going, and we're going back. There's an international LAN happening in, I want to say, like a month.
There is. I'm not sure about the exact date of it, but there is a big Sky Esports event happening. I think ENTS are attending. So if you go,
it's basically the non-major qualifying teams, and there's a close qualifier playing soon actually.
Yeah,
so
April 8th. So it's ENTS, Liquid, Big, OG, NIP, a close qualifier, an invite, and an India close qualifier. So hopefully God's Reign again, because well, they're the best team I've seen from South Asia so far. But no, Counter-Strike is fairly well known in India. Like the number of people I speak to who are South Asian, Indian primarily, who don't know diddly squat about gaming. Like, at all. Not gamers. Don't do anything. And they ask me, like, what game I actually talk about. Oh, Counter-Strike. And oh, I know that game. So you're like, yeah, okay, there's a bit of a scene for it. I guess, maybe the LAN cafes aren't running the best PCs. Counter-Strike usually has been historically a game that runs on pretty much every machine. So maybe CS2's been a bit of an upgrade and a bit of an issue, but historically it's a game they have played. So really looking forward to seeing how that develops. Maybe, yeah, India will be Mongolia 2.0. That'll be something to keep an eye on. But no, that's pretty much all the news of the week. It's a quiet week, like a pretty quiet week. We do have, however, a very extensive list of Eternal Shuffle. Because, sure, Tier 1 has been settling into the major cycle. A bunch of the teams that qualified have also been prepping for this. everyone who didn't make it has had a lot of things to talk about, things to consider, especially those teams who then also failed to qualify for other events. So let's start with this one. Godsent bench whole team haven't paid salaries. Now, this is how it's written in the notes by our Swedish reporter himself. We're going to need some details, because what on earth's been going on there?
Right, so Godsent benched the whole team due to budget issues, effectively, because they lost their main sponsor at the start of the year after they failed in the major qualifiers, which Godsent said the sponsor did this because of an internal financial decision, and it had nothing to do with the performance. But, I mean, had the Godsent made it to the RMR, they probably would have stuck around. So yeah, due to financial reasons, Godsent have had to bench their entire team. They are looking to transfer them as quickly as possible and as cheaply as possible, because they're at least somewhat nice guys to the players. And what I learned, or what we learned at Dust 2, actually, because we were the ones who did the dig on this, or Hallon Kram, I should say. I had nothing to do with it aside from what we learned then is that Godsent hadn't been paying their salaries during the whole year, which also explains why the players were talking about out of server issues that were impacting their performance. I mean, that's a pretty big fucking out of server issue. So the whole article is up on dust2.se. If you are not Swedish, I can tell you the Google translation if you just right click and translate the article. That's decent. It's accurate enough. But the gist of it is that none of the players were. A lot of the staff also weren't paid, so like they just couldn't pay salaries pretty much at all. It wasn't just like these 5 players. Yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. We're talking all of 2024. So the last time they got paid, the main team got paid was in December. So actually, I'm reading this as I'm saying this. Benched players have not been paid at all by the way I'm reading this. Yeah. And also some other people haven't been paid. So yeah, it's a lot of money trouble. I think there was also an issue with prize money, but I can't find that mention now. Somehow, yes, prize money also wasn't paid during 2024.
Okay,
so
where did that go?
Godsent are saying they are going to pay all of this, and they are going to get back into CS with a new team, is what they're saying. But probably that's going to be a much cheaper, like, tier 2 level team, because let's not forget that they had to pay out, like, they had to buy out some of these players. They had to buy out Klopski from NIP. They had a loan from NIP for ZTR at the start. So when he left, they probably didn't get a penny for that when he transferred to Medisport. There were some other players that I remember got bought out as well. I think Bob XD, no, he was a free agent. Well, whatever. There were players who definitely cost a bit, and there were players who probably needed not just a livable salary, but probably asked slightly more to join Godsent in the first place.
Okay.
I'm speculating. I don't know about this, but I'm just guessing that, like, if you're Plopsky, you've been on NIP for several years. Unless Godsent are paying, like, slightly more than like a minimum wage, you probably could have gotten better international offers if you wanted to. So I think, yeah, probably they had to do something to like make this project attractive.
Sure.
Golden as well, same idea there. But yeah, there's going to be a new team. There's going to be a new thing. Money trouble. People drew parallels to Heaton, because Heaton basically ran this org. You would know more about this than I do. But there's nothing. I think Heaton left before all of this started happening. It's basically the sponsor pulled out, I think, is the gist of it. They just and they had to shimmy around the fact that they had no money for a couple of months until now, when it's all broken up. So yeah. Big, huge for the Swedish scene, because you now have 5 very good, very high quality players to move around the other teams. Some of whom are underperforming quite a lot. So yeah, would be really interesting.
Yeah, I think the only team that's not immediately coming to mind as needs to make changes is Medisport. Like, sure, I do have my own qualms with certain parts of the roster, but I don't think anyone's really going to be desperate for a Godsent player. Because I'm not sure who was AWPing on this roster.
Era.
Yeah.
You don't like Era. I know
Era. Swedes rate him. I know he was better on Godsent than he was on Gamer Legion back when I had to sit through his games. But I wouldn't want him instead of Jacquinho right now. There's not much there in my mind.
I think pound for pound, I think he would be an upgrade over Jacquinho, but Jacquinho is also doing decent enough where you wouldn't want to like rip the team apart right now when they're doing so well. I think they have a lot of faith in Jacquinho and they want to stick it out with him. I would rather see Era. I could see him in a lot of places. He is a better player now than he was in Gamer Legion. I interviewed him and he basically said that like when I was in Gamer Legion, I didn't really like Counter-Strike. Like it was like I was half-assing it a bit, but then once I took a break, I played for Young Ninjas a bit, and now I'm back in Godsent and I'm really enjoying the game. And that's when he really started showing up numbers. So the players I think would definitely land on their feet. Obviously Plopsky. Plopsky is still a good player. He was a good player on Godsent and he definitely could land on his feet somewhere, even if it isn't in Sweden. I think Golden is a good quality player, especially because of something that we're going to get to later on. Bob XD is a huge player, very beloved in Sweden. It has had some consistency issues, but when he peaks, he's really good. Like as that sort of modern, like aggressive rifler kind of player, which is really cool to see. And then there's Rusty. Rusty is always a quality piece, I think, but he, yeah, I struggle to put him anywhere at the moment, but he's a quality piece for a lot of teams.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't see most of these moves making too much of a difference. I mean, if you can maybe like if you're one of the teams that wants to like kind of fork out or maybe make some actual moves, you could probably assemble using the rest of the Swedish teams a far better team than any of them individually. I'm talking Eyeballers, Alliance, and this former Godsend roster. You can probably make a better team than any of those three using the pieces that you can scrounge from these three teams. But realistically, the best players in Sweden are on Mouse Sports and on Metasport. Like, let's be real.
Yeah,
there's not much you can do. So it's a weird one, but it's definitely interesting to see where Golden and Plopsky most importantly end up, because one's a really good IGL, the other one's a really solid rifler. So I'll be curious to see where they end up, because that's the big one. Unless this exact 5 gets picked up by an org.
That also could happen. I don't know exactly if they've said anything about if they're sticking together or not, but Godsend are also open to selling them as a whole squad, so that is possible. Bob XT, I want to emphasize that I think Bob XT is a bit of a dark horse. He's still very young. He's still up and coming. He played well on prospects. He played well on Godsend. He doesn't have like the huge numbers, and that's partially just because of consistency issues. Like when he's playing the way he's supposed to be playing, he is. I mean, people in Sweden call this team Bobsent for a reason. Like he's a big player. Definitely could be a big player if he finds a decent team for this. I don't see him like stepping straight up into like a squad better than Metasport at the moment. But if he can find a good fit somewhere, then he could be a big player.
Okay. Well, something to look out for is the result of that whole move. Next thing up we got on the agenda, 3D Max Hadji has he benched himself? Has he been benched? I didn't read the article in particular depth or pay attention. I just saw that he was no longer on the roster, which was a curious one for me because he's been a fixture kind of in that core, but also in the French scene, I guess, for a little while. He stepped down, so it seems to be his choice. And he's looking for international options. It's a bit of a weird character, because for a while you thought he was like the next good French rifler to come through, but every time he took a step up to tier 1 play, or like he got the opportunity because they qualified for something, it just wasn't there. It wasn't pretty. He wasn't good enough for that level of play. So I've always been iffy, and now he's 28. He's been bouncing around. He's been on every org ever at this point. I wonder what the future holds for him, if it even holds a lot, because I don't know who needs him on their roster right now. I'm not sure who actually wants to go fishing for a Hadji. That's a big issue I have.
Yeah, I can't say much about exactly what kind of a player he is, where he would do well, etc., etc. But it is worth thinking about the fact that Hadji was Vitality's top candidate to replace Alex when he left, but unfortunately couldn't because he had just signed a fresh contract on LDLC, and Vitality would rather pick up Misuta, who was free. So, like, there's a universe where we have Hadji being on Vitality for a year or two rather than Misuta, and I think where he was in 2020, like where Vitality were in 2020, that could have been a different very different kind of team. Haji is weird to me. I think that if you look at his stats and if you look at like he's a bit of a tier 2 merchant in that sense, of course.
Yes.
But if you look at that and then you look at that and you think, well, maybe he's one of the better hard stuck tier 2 players that could have actually done something in tier 1 if you just look at these stats. And then probably not, because every time he's tried being tier 1 adjacent, it hasn't really worked out. But like you look at this and you think, well, there definitely could have been something here. I think so. Right now, I don't know. Probably, maybe he just got tired of playing CS and that's why he left.
Well, the official statement is he's looking for an international team. So, according to him, he's not tired of it. But
I can tell you, he will end up on Into the Breach and do nothing. So,
yeah. Maybe he can be a value add if he no longer needs to be a star player of any kind. But that was always a big issue, that he was and didn't give you the value required. So, interesting. There's a lot of tier 2 moves this week. ITB benched the entire roster. Honestly, I didn't think much of it. I didn't rate a lot of the players. They didn't do a whole lot. ITB are trying again. That's what this feels like. There is not much to have been hopeful about, even in the games we saw from this team. So I think, yeah, there's not much to say about it. They've dropped the entire roster. They're going to try again. Anyone of interest for you that you would like to see get picked up?
Well, Misuta already is stepping in for 3D Max, so that's already kind of happening. I think Rallen and Bemas are two players that definitely could keep doing something. I think Bemas did well on ITB. And I think he was only benched because there was that rumor that they were going to bring in NBK and bring back Misuta, and they were going to bring in Esperanto, and they were going to work with like Rallen and Crucial for that. And there was rumor that that was a roster that was practicing together. And I think that might be the case because Rallen did post something when he was benched. He said something like, well, he said something like, as you know, there has been a change in like the managerial policy at Into the Breach, and if I had known this earlier, I probably wouldn't have been on this team for so long. But so maybe that was happening until they decided to change their mind with like, oh, NBK was there, so I don't know if I mentioned him, but the idea was having him as the IGL. But Rallen is a quality player, another probably tier 2 merchant, but like from what I've heard, he hasn't stepped up because he just didn't want to. Like he didn't want to leave Polish tier 2 teams, even if they were like he was doing great and they were doing pretty good. So he just didn't want to step up, even if he was offered. Or from what people have been saying, he just wasn't too keen on it. But he's a good player. He's always been a good player. I think he did show that in Into the Breach as well. You might hold a different opinion here, but I think during the major he was good. He was a good player. No, yeah, he's old enough where he's old enough where he could have been like towards the end of the Golden 5 roster. He could have been something there. Yeah, he did do well at the major. Well, at least in the RMRs. Anyway, Bemas. I think Bemas is quality. I think Bemas gets a bad rep because of where his career was early on. Like he had a forgettable time as a face stand-in at 16, basically just an FPL hire. And then he played for Mouse, during which they were he was brought in as like a 6th man during that whole thing in 2020. And then Woxic benched himself. And then he had to play full-time Counter-Strike with Mouse while going to school, which was an issue. And then he eventually did pretty all right on Mouse as soon as school ended. There was a definite line where like his numbers picked up after he graduated school, but then he left, and I think that was for the better. And then he didn't really find a team until he found ITB. And again, he did all right. I think he was the top player during his time Into the Breach. So Bemas could land on his feet. I like Bemas. I couldn't really tell you why, but like I think he could do all right. He's only 20 still.
On pure rating, he wasn't the highest rated. After I watched a few of their games with him, and it was very much Into the Breach were not a great team, but if Bemas was hitting heads, they had a chance to win games. And he's an FPL kid, so he's got sharp mechanics. He can really flick. He can hit the headshots. The problem was when he was picked up initially, the first exposure he had was as a completely unpolished pugger. Like there was no polish to his game at all, and it was evident to everyone that this guy just wasn't ready for tier 1 play. Hell, he wasn't really ready for tier 2 play. He needed to play a lot of tier 3, tier 2, grind up, get that level of understanding of high level Counter Strike that he just didn't have as just a pugger. So yeah, there's been some pitfalls in his career that I think a lot of players would want to avoid. Things that he probably shouldn't have gone through that clearly hindered him. But I don't know, man. And when I'm looking at these moves, I'm thinking, what team can pick these players up, make something with them? And there's not that many options that really come to mind. I think Sangal's a team that'll probably look at some of these players and go, likely an upgrade in here, considering we play messy nonsense Counter Strike. BMAS probably is on that list. But no, the biggest player, their best player initially was Misuta, and the fact that he's already on 3D Max, as the first to have been picked up out of any of these guys, says enough. I think. Crucial. I think it's been a while since anyone's really thought he's got much potential or much left to give. And then the rest is more of the same story. So let's wrap up that one. Move on to another Swedish piece of news. Eyeballers have benched Shine, who is the IGL. Thanks for the reminder. And Flusher has temporarily returned, who I believe he's going to be calling, because I think he's done that before, not too far in the past. Not to much success or joy by the sounds of it, but at least he has some experience doing it. So how is this move looking for Eyeballers? What is the reason for this?
No fucking idea. I think it was the wrong move to make. Their results started picking up when they moved IGL. They jumped, like the IGL role jumped around the team so much to the point where Pepsor was calling for a week. But when they finally put it on Shine, that's when their results actually started looking up. That's when they won the Swedish Cup. That's when stuff started happening for them. And then of course they've slowed down a bit. I think their most recent history isn't even all that bad because they just didn't play anything. They took a big hiatus after the major qualifiers. But they made it to close. They made it to the close qualifier, bombed out of there. Disappointing, of course, but I think this is the wrong move to make. Flusha is only there until they find a new player. He's been the team's... Obviously, he co-owns the team together with JW. And he's been the team's assistant coach for a while. I think it's an interesting move because it might mean... I don't know. It's a very weird move. I think Shine was a quality piece, but unfortunately, I don't think he's going to find a much better team than Eyeballers. I think he deserves it, but I don't think people will look at him in the same way and be like, well, maybe he could be part of a Godsend rebuild or something. Yeah.
If they want to get cheaper, if they want to get younger, then he's definitely an option.
Yeah. He has a very supportive piece. He's a good IGL. Young player, as you said. But yeah, weird move, in my opinion. Weird move. No fucking clue who they're going to pick up. I could see... There's been debate around this. Liquipedia, for a while, Liquipedia listed JW as the caller for Eyeballers. But then you also ask some people in Sweden and they say JW never called. It was always Shine or Pepsor for a short while or Flusha. But
yeah,
if JW did it or if he could do it, then it could be interesting to see them pick up maybe Bob XD, like I said. That would have been fun. And then JW calls and you sort of boost the star power of this team a bit. Because I think Pepsor, Sapek is the only reason they're winning maps at the moment. Sapek and JW. I think Pepsor, Sapek, JW, Heap. That's a pretty talented core. If you and then chuck a Bob XD in there, and you have on firepower, you have a team that I think maybe couldn't parallel Metisport, but could approach them on potential. You just have to actually make that potential do anything, which nobody has been able to do.
Yeah, important in that part.
Yeah. So it could also be a new IGL. Golden is the obvious slot in. But when he was last on Fnatic with Flusha and JW, they didn't really see eye to eye on how to play Counter-Strike. So maybe that doesn't happen either. I mean, they're friends, but they...
Yeah, Golden wanted strategy and tactics, and the other two wanted vibes. Is what I really took away from all that.
I think there was something like that. Alliance are definitely a team that I think could do better than they are, and they might need a move to make that happen. There's a bunch of players, both on Godsend or maybe even Shine, could do something like that. So yeah, there's no need to talk much more about this. It's a bad move. It's in my opinion, and it's you guys are gonna care more about that. Flusha is back in case you watched him back in the day. But
yeah, I mean, Flush has been an
let's
interesting
move on.
character in the tier 2 scene, but
Yep.
yeah, there's not much to report aside from the fact that you don't like it. Most people will have no
Mm.
opinion on this move. Finally, Sprout finished their sort of rebuild as they have been working through a bunch of different rosters, a bunch of different players. They finally settled on the lineup of Rals, Sejot, Steim. So these three players we've seen a fair bit on Sprout, and then Pody and Reiko have been brought in to finalize this roster. Pody and Reiko both are former prospects, so for me this is a brilliant move, genius, finally following some sort of logical pattern of high quality young players. Pody we saw in Ends Academy for a while. At his best, the team looked tier 2 worthy and good enough, considering there wasn't that much talent on the roster. And he was one of the few players who actually put up a starring performance. He fairly impressed me. Like, no, he's not Munacy, but he's a fucking solid AWPer. And then the other player they've signed is Reiko, who was on Prospects like 3 years ago. And back then he was already 20 or 21. So he's not as young as that title may imply. But he's been floating around these sort of Polish rosters for a long time. And the part that annoyed me the most is not only did I think there was potential there on the actual online play, he finally, like a year or so ago, maybe 18 months at this point, it's been a while, played a LAN with this roster. Basically carried the roster that he was on to a grand final of this smaller LAN. And still, at the end of it, you're like, no offers, no one cares, this team actually eventually disbands or breaks up or changes org. One of those options. It's always the case in Tier 2. But he ends up going nowhere, so I'm just kind of frustrated that no one's taking that risk, even when we got good Polish teams starting to come up, need players, make changes. No one wants Reiko. So he's finally moved international. Hopefully it's been 3 years of English lessons to get him here, because that might be the only excuse for why it didn't happen sooner. And I'm kind of excited. I don't know how high I see the ceiling of this team realistically being. I've never seen that much potential out of the Sprout rosters with roles like calling. I'm pretty sure he is calling, otherwise what the hell is he doing? So hopefully it works out, because I like Sejot. I think Steim has shown a decent level. Pody I'm a fan of. Reiko I'm a fan of. Let's make it work. You've got the IGL and you've got a really experienced coach. I think they can do this. What's your take on this this combo of moves, I guess?
I don't have a lot to add. I think it's it makes this team a roster with potential, and if there's I don't know if there's any org that can definitely put a bunch of like talented players together and kind of make it work, it's probably Sprout, because they've done it a couple of times before. Like weird rosters where you think, well, I see the point, but I wouldn't have put this together, and then it actually kind of works. I mean, they made a major with one such roster. But yeah, it's a cool move. Cool move. I don't have a lot to add. There was a time when a lot of conversations with you involved Reiko, and that was probably around the time of that prospect video being released. I did see some people say stuff like, "Oh, I've never heard of this Reiko kid," and then I was like, "Well, you haven't been watching the literature." Like,
You
yeah,
haven't done your studying. To be fair, it's a video that's like 500 views. It is literally three and a bit years old at this point. But no,
yeah.
it's weird to me that it took so long for him to actually make a move up in rosters. Because yeah, he's not been a bad player at any stretch of his career, and he's even had great stretches on LAN. So what have we been waiting for? Yeah, 6th of August 2021 for those wondering when that came out.
Yeah, go watch it. You can see vintage KingT content.
Oh god, yeah. Actually, I want to take a quick look. Actually, I'm just gonna distract myself for a second. What the hell do I look like in this video? Am I bald? No, oh god,
No.
I'm very not bald. I look special. This is back in the green screen era. Oh god, yeah. Enjoy yourselves with that one. You'll never see me looking like this again.
Is that Austria in the background? The map, Austria?
It is the map Austria, yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, anyway, yeah. If you want to check that out, check that out. But let's wrap up the Eternal Shuffle there. Been a very Tier 2 centric one. A lot of Swedish talk, which, as we all know, we get far too much of anyway. And so let's move on to prospects of the week. Of course, a weekly staple as well. I'll let you go first, because you've picked a player I wasn't expecting to see on here. So let me know why you've taken this guy and, well, your entire thoughts.
It was a very hard week to pick, but I did want to pick someone from games I had watched that weren't that wasn't a Medisport player. But I picked TMB out of Prezi. We've talked about him before. I think we talked about him last week when we were talking about Astralis.
Yeah.
Or whenever that episode would have been. I'll be brief. They played the Dallas qualifier and they did come out last, I think, but they had very close maps against, or very close series against both Heroic and Medisport. And well, TMB, I wouldn't say he put up amazing numbers, but he put up numbers this week. So we've mostly talked about him as an IGL, which is probably his best quality. Actually, most of his numbers this week would have come from the European Pro League, where they have stomped all opposition. But yeah, I mean, we've mostly talked about him as an IGL. He is an IGL. I think that's a good reason to mention a prospect as well. He's probably one of the better up-and-coming IGLs in the world at the moment.
Yeah, it's a huge boon to find a young IGL at this point who's actually showing potential, like real potential, yeah.
Yeah, and Prezi are sort of on the up and up. I remember there was that news about like they were trying to sell Prezi. And people were like, I think a lot of people got the initial reaction that, oh, this is bad for the team because they aren't making money. They are bad. They're going to disband. And it was that sort of thing. That wasn't actually the gist of that news piece. It was more that the electricity company millionaire, or whatever the fuck that company does, who started this brand as like a subdivision to their big company, whatever they do, they are now realizing, well, we've turned this nothing into something, and now we want to sell it as like the brand. So they want to sell the team and the brand to a new owner. So I mean, in the end, for them, it was always a business venture, and it's been very successful in that sense. So Prezi are definitely is an org and a team that sort of things are looking up for. Could use an offer, perhaps, but I mean, Dupree is having like a resurgence that I honestly didn't expect from him. And yeah, TMB is calling a good game, so that's all about that.
Yeah, solid pick, honestly. Big fan of this guy. Always bring him up when I can. Always suggest him for big Danish rosters because, yeah, this device shouldn't be AWPing and calling. That's just a fact of the matter. But no, can't wait for this player to get his shine, or if Prezi can keep qualifying for stuff and making runs, that'll be great. But no, good pick, solid player, like especially mechanically for an IGL, superb. So yeah, big fan of that pick. I've picked Oxygen. Now on the topic of really fucking old prospects videos, this is an old one as well. 2nd of May 2021. I did this is like the second ever video named prospects. I did like the entirety of the Skada roster, who at the time were all like 21 and younger. Now that included Rainwaker, that included Oxygen, that included Ships, Denislav, and Duplicate. Now not all of them got the same flattering review. But Oxygen, his review was pretty simple. About as unpolished as it can get. There is no polish to this man's game at the time. This is 2021. But he's really, really sharp. Like when he gets in the right position, he has like a 50-50 fight. He's going to win it. He's going to hit the headshot before the other player does. Now, he's been a part of this Entropic roster, who are kind of poo-poo. I don't know how to put it politely when it comes to playing smart, tactical CS. I really don't enjoy them watching their games that much. But it must be said that they have a couple players who can aim, and the one who's been the most impressive, at least to me in the games I've watched, and the most defining in terms of their chance of winning games, has been Oxygen. So he's been really impressive, kind of carrying my interest in this roster, because otherwise I probably wouldn't be overly invested. So yeah, he's had a good week, put up some crazy numbers, played a good game, and yeah, just thought I'd highlight him. And whilst we're on the topic, if you go back, that video is pre-green screen. There's not even a green screen; it's a black screen. The camera quality is butt cheeks, and I'm assuming the mic's going to be terrible quality as well. So if you want an even bigger laugh, that's where you should head. Because oh wow. What a throwback.
Yeah. I think I picked Oxygen the other week as well, around the time of the major close qualifier. He's a good
possible.
pick. I like him. I like him as a player. I think out of those SCADA guys, I think he is the one who I think things are looking up the most for at the moment. Because 500 are doing fuck all, and they keep putting Grashhog in. Like,
Yeah.
And there you already have like Rainwaker, Danislav, ships. I think you still have all of those 3. And they keep removing good players and adding bad players, so...
yeah, they're just trying to find the right balance of like calling and fragging, because they keep having, taking out IGLs, putting in players who can frag, then being like, crap, we need to actually call a good game, so let's bring the IGL back. But then their IGL they bring it back as guys like Grasshog. Grasshog can barely hold a mouse. I'm sorry, man. Like he's horrendous. So they then get annoyed at him and then change him again. It's basically the loop they seem stuck on. But yeah, with a roster like this, Ships, Denislav, Red Star, Rainwaker, plus IGL should be good. It's just that Bubble, who would have been historically that 5th player, isn't playing with these guys right now because he's kind of retired. I'm pretty sure he's retired. He hasn't just slipped off my map, has he?
He did just slip off the map, I think. I don't think he ever officially... Oh, yeah, he transitioned to a coaching role.
So he's now a coach, yeah. Okay, so he's retired from playing, so that as good as.
He isn't a coach, he's trying to be a coach, but he just doesn't have a team.
Hasn't found one, but no, that's the thing with that roster. But more importantly, stick to Oxygen. Really good player right now in terms of the tier 2 space, carrying a roster that, frankly, doesn't have much right to win games. It's just fraggers. And yeah, I'm impressed. I liked him. Let's wrap this up with something a bit more fun. It's the major kicks off today in about 20 minutes. We're going to do a draft. Now, the last time we did this, we did it for Katowice. This time we're doing a bit of a special one. So we're picking from players who are qualified to this major, but who haven't won a major. So pretty selective as to who you can actually choose. I thought it'd be nice to cut the numbers down, trim the fat. And we're going to do this in the 1-2-2-2-2-1 picking order. I'm sure most people are familiar with. Quacke, you have first pick this time, because I believe I just bullied you and took first pick last time. So let me know. We've got IGL, AWP, and then 3 rifle rolls to divvy up. Who are you taking first?
Well, there's no question. I'm picking Donk as my entry player.
Okay.
Yeah. No explanation
no,
needed.
That's fair. That's fair.
What's your pick? What's your pick?
No. I've got 2 picks here, and you can't take more than 2 players from a team. But I'm just going to take 2 G2 players because it's so free. So I'm taking Nico and Monacy. Just straight off the bat. So I've filled out my stars. I could have 3 role players now and basically have G2. So go on. Blow me away. Because I remember before we went live, you had some interesting options in mind.
Yeah, okay, so when we were talking about this, I thought you just meant major attendees in general. So I was like, oh, well, I could pick Snappy, I guess. He's a good pick. And then, yeah, no, it was illegal pick. All right, so you picked an entry and an opera, so I would be better off picking... I'll go for Alexi B as my IGL, and I'll go for K Serrato as my lurker.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
You've left the 2 I wanted anyway on the board. Give me Shuhei and Jimfat.
Oh, good pick, yeah. Good
yeah, I'm liking this fucking roster.
Yeah, good picks. That's so a G2 duo and a mouse duo.
Yeah. Keep it simple.
Pick,
it's like picking fantasy, just take 2 players from 2 teams that I think are actually going to do stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I'll go for an op and a support player now. And the support player was hard. Well, for my op, I'll go Shiro, which I think is the wise move. So I'll double down on Spirit here.
That's fine, yeah.
And for my support player, this was hard. I'm kind of still thinking about it because it's hard to pick a good support player, I think. But I'll go for Calyx, which is more of I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Weird pick, but I think it works for me. Yeah.
Well, see, I'm in an interesting spot here because I've definitely got I've got Nico, who, depending on how you like to define roles, could be an entry or a lurk. Probably more of an entry, but still. I've got an AWPer, I've got a support rifler, I've got an IGL. I just need another lurky sort of star rating player. So I've got a lot of options.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one that I left on the table.
It. But I think I'm going to go with Frozen.
Yeah, that's the one.
Because he's no longer on Mouse Sports, and he didn't win a major with FaZe. He showed up too late. So I've pretty much got a dream team. I'm very happy with this. I thought, you know what? I knew you were going to get Donk first after I reminded you of how this shit works. There was no doubt that you'd get Donk. But honestly, not too bad. Not too damn bad.
Yeah. So do you want to follow that pick up with a coach pick as well, because I think I
Yeah.
could kind of like make or break this team in a way.
Yeah, we need to pick some coaches. What do you want me to take my coach first?
But you had the support, so yeah, you could pick the coach. Like
Okay.
you had only the one pick last.
Bloody hell. And I can't pick a coach who's won a major, so I can't go taking Blade. I can't go taking Zonic.
Zonic isn't here either way, so.
Either way, yeah, true. Yeah, no, I always forget he's no longer on the. Oh, that means Xtaz is available because he's never won a major.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll take the shiny-headed fuck. Xtaz.
Yeah.
On my team.
Yeah, good pick. I had him as my backup option, but my primary option is Saw. I'm gonna pick Saw for this.
Oh, good. That's good. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
I didn't even consider
I think we're both
that team.
I think we've both put together pretty good teams. I mean, so I have Donk, LXCB, Keserato, Shiro, and Calix. Calix is a bit of an underground pick, but I just feel like he's always been a solid supportive piece. And then, of course, like, who else could I even have picked? I could have picked someone like Hunter or Nexa. No, thank you. I could have picked. You stole Gympat, so I don't.
You could have taken Magix, Zontix, Mezzy.
No, I couldn't because I already had Shiro and Donk.
Fair enough. Yeah, never mind. But yeah, you had Mezzy, Shush. I had the entire heroic lineup waiting to fill in slots if you took the guys I wanted.
Mezzy could have been a good pick. JL, could you make a case for him being a support player? That would have been a good pick.
He is. No, honestly, I thought I thought you'd go with Shush at the end of all this. Like, Shush would have been
he was a better pick. I should have thought about this more. But I think we both have good teams here. Yours is probably the more.
Oh, it's a super
realistic.
Team. Let's be real. It's also a super.
It
team.
is.
It's Nico Munisi, Yimpfat, Suhei, and Frozen. It's a super team and a half. There may be some issues, but fuck it. Like, that's a team right there.
Yeah, that's a 2024 super team. I think I've gone more for like I want to put together something that, I think I have maybe a bit more tenure on my team when I have LXCB, Keserato, Shiro, those picks.
Historic winners, yes.
I think you win this one because I just like your team. But
thank you.
I think I was closer this time than I was with the Katowice one.
Oh yeah, your Katowice showing was poor. That's fair. That's fair. that is a fair statement to make. But no, yeah. Let us know in the comments who you'd have taken. But that's going to wrap up the show. I think it's a shorter one. We've kept it under an hour, under 55 minutes. Wow. We basically speed ran the show. The show that was initially pitched as, like a 30-minute recap. Never seems to be under an hour. We've kept it under an hour. And yeah, next week's going to be way longer because there'll be so much crap that's going to happen at the major to talk about. And I'm assuming probably more roster moves as teams keep finalising decisions. And maybe we'll have a finalised bleed roster to actually discuss. I think at this rate, unlikely if they were going with Isak, but we'll find out. If they go 0-3. Maybe that gets confirmed sooner rather than later. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you made it this far and you watched the entire video, you're my hero. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Be sure to check out the socials, become a member, and goodbye.